Welcome all you minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and today I'm doing an overview of some books from Fantagraphics. Each one of these 5 books is so different from the other. Can't wait to talk about it, so let's go ahead and get started. Now before getting started, I do want to give a huge thank you to the folks at Fantagraphics for sending us copies of these books. And all of these books have come out in the last month and a half, but some of them have been delayed for a long time, including one of my most anticipated book of the year. But all of these are out now in the direct market and book market. And if you're interested in a particular book and want to skip another one, I do put timestamps in the description of the video. So today I am going to start with that slipcase of Mickey Mouse Zombie Coffee. So here we have Reggie Loisel's Zombie Coffee. This is a Mickey Mouse book. And oh my gosh, is this freaking brilliant. Here's what the spine looks like. This is a slipcase edition. And the book retails for $24.99. And here's what the other side of the spine looks like with the Mickey Mouse logo there. And nothing on this side. So honestly, you could keep it in your bookshelf like this, because this is where you can see the book in the slipcase. Let's get it out of there. That is a beautiful box set right here. And this is what the book looks like. So it is a widescreen format. Not, what we're used to. I don't know why the heck I almost held it up like that. We're used to traditional books like this. Not like this, but I love when books like these come out. I have quite a number of them in my library. Let's go ahead and crack this open and talk a little bit about the story while looking at this beautiful artwork. Now, out of all the books in this lot, this is the one that stood out to me because it just reminded me of my childhood. I didn't grow up in the 30s, but I grew up with a lot of the reruns of Mickey Mouse, and it was just one of my favorite times as a kid. And oh my gosh, that is freaking amazing. So Loisel takes us back to those years, takes us back to the early adventures of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. You're also going to see Horace, what is his name? Horace Horsecollar in here, and Clarabelle, the cow. They're also in here. And it's during the Great Depression. This is a really interesting read. The book is only 80 pages. So it's all about Mickey and Horace trying to find some job because times are hard. So because they can't find a job, they decide to take themselves and everyone else on a road trip vacation. They're going to make it really cheap. They got actually the idea from a couple of kids here that are just having fun and they're poor. So they were like, hey, those kids are having fun and they're poor, so we can do it. We can go on an adventure for free or real cheap. So they get Pluto, Minnie, Horace, Clarabelle, and all of them go in this unforgettable adventure. When they return, however, because you're probably wondering what the heck is the zombie story about, when they return, you have the real estate developer Rock Fuller destroying their town, Mouston, to build a golf course. And now he's getting the help of an army of zombies that pretty much they were normal citizens and now they have been and he's getting the help of normal citizens transformed into zombies to destroy this city. All for the sake of building a golf course. But this is the type of artwork you're going to find in here. It is very reminiscent of that era. This is the same gentleman that did Peter Pan. He was a storyboard artist on, I think it was Mulan that he did. He's a phenomenal artist. If you've not read any of his stuff in the past, you need to do yourself a favor and check him out. I think Titan released a couple of his books here in America. But this is what the artwork looks like. If you're a fan of this era, or if you're a fan of just interesting Disney type of books, because you all know how I feel about Uncle Scrooge. But this is another one that's great. The thing is, I never got around to read any of Floyd Gottfredson's Mickey. And I always wanted to, because I know he was doing what Carl Barks was doing with the Duck comics. He was doing his own Mickey thing. So if any of you have ever read it, please let me know. But this is what the artwork looks like. And I'm just going to flip through a couple of pages of the extras all the way in the back. All of the characters that play a big part in this. I love this. The caution about the author wishes to reassure animal protection organizations and sensitive readers in regard to certain slapstick humor depicted. No cartoon animals were harmed in the making of this. This is a hardcover. As far as the binding, it is sewn binding. Not that you need that big of an eye for 80 pages, but there it is. And did I show? I can't remember if I showed the back or not, but that is Zombie Coffee. All right, this next one's going to be a little tricky because this is the collection of Johnny Ryan's art, and it's a lot of the art that got him banned from Instagram. So I'm going to see what I can do. This is Johnny Ryan, the same guy that did the Prison Pit book, which Fantagraphics just released that in complete collection. So there's a softcover and a hardcover available of that particular series. It is insane. But as insane as that is, to get a look inside of the mind that put that together is even crazier. So let me see what I can do. Okay, what I'm going to have to do to show some of this book to get an idea of what to expect in here is censor some of it and leave other stuff alone. I don't even know what some of this stuff means because it just goes way over my head and it's just, okay, it's either brilliant or really stupid, but I'm freaking digging it. Okay, this one isn't bad. This one's clean. This is good. Yeah, it's this type of stuff. The book, by the way, retails for $49.99. While there's a lot of sophomoric humor in here, there's a lot of political, almost satire, and social commentary. What the heck? Okay, so you kind of get the idea by just me flipping through here what you're going to find in here. Obviously, I don't have to tell you, this is definitely mature content. A lot of the things in here you might find offensive, so, you know, if this is not your type of humor, maybe pass up on this book, but I think it's freaking brilliant. The more I flip through it, there's just things that don't make any sense, like this picture of Bill Murray with just body parts that don't belong to him, man. He looks like Jabba the Hutt. Believe it or not, I found the most tamest pictures to show you all. It is printed in this thick matte paper. So this is pretty much the last page, and there are no extras, so it has 500 pages, but the binding, it is glued binding, so you can see the page bunches glued in here to the spine. So it's a pretty big book. I mean, it is 500 pages, and that is Johnny Ryan, Barely Human. Next up is The Treasure of the Black Swan. This is a hardcover edition, and when I said that these books vary, they're all a little bit different from each other, or sometimes a lot different. This is definitely a lot different than the Johnny Ryan book we looked at. It is apparently going to be an AMC original series, which I had no idea. So if anybody knows what it's called, please let me know, because I found this book to be really intriguing. The first thing that I noticed on this book, though, was Paco Roca. That is what immediately drew my interest to this particular book. So all of this is based on real events. A lot of the characters here, they may have changed the names, I'm not really sure, but this all really happened. And so it was an interesting, like, history lesson for me about even finding treasure and being a treasure hunter. So this takes place in 2007, and we have this ship known as the Ithaca. And we have the ship's captain, Frank Stern, has been looking for this Black Swan treasure. Now, the Black Swan is just a legend. There's really not a ship called the Black Swan, but he's been looking for it, and he has finally found it. Immediately, he lawyers up, and it turns out that this ship might have belonged in Spanish waters, and it was a Spanish ship with a bunch of Spanish, not just, I don't want to say just gold and treasure, but also artifacts that tell the history of Spain during that particular time. So we meet this other character right here. This is a young man named Alejandro Ventura, and he's starting a new job, and pretty much this is working for the government. So immediately they find out that there was a treasure found, everybody's being quiet, and you get to see how all of it is just being twisted and covered up by a political power, maybe. So it's a true story about not just money and political power, but you also have a love story in here, because Alejandro meets this young lady doing research. Her name is Elsa, and she helps him, you know, put together a case, like how these pirates do it. So it made me, almost like, made me look at Indiana Jones in a different way. And don't get me wrong, I still love Indiana Jones. He's a freaking treasure hunter. But it makes it look like who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Because you do get a lot, of course, of the Madrid storyline in here. So But it's also a historical lesson in here. There's a story of what happened, what this ship really was, and what kind of people were on this ship when it went down and how it went down. I thought that was that was unexpected. I wasn't expecting to see that. Even the pages in here are yellowed to look a little bit different and stand out above this here. But there's a story in here about the cultural heritage, because we have the people from Madrid that want that treasure back. You know, not just because of the monetary value of it, but because it's part of their legacy. It's part of their heritage. It's who they were years ago. So I thought that was really cool. And my point about Indiana Jones is, like, you start seeing both sides. You start saying, okay, treasure hunter, that's awesome. But also, maybe pirate? There's military cover-ups in here. I found this to be a very intriguing read. I couldn't put it down. And because, I mean, there is a mystery. They're like, do they get their, because I didn't know anything about this ship. I didn't know anything about this treasure. Do they get the treasure back? So there's this whole mystery behind them. And the artwork by Paco Roca is just so easy to follow. I think it's an awesome, I guess this would probably be described as a thriller. Now, this book retails for $29.99, and it has 224 pages in it. But that is pretty much the basis of the story. And if you're a fan of Paco La Roca's Wrinkles or Lighthouse, this is a lot different, because this is, you know, a true story. All the way in the back is where you're going to find the acknowledgments, and this tells you a little bit about the creators, Guillermo Corral Van Damme, who is the writer of this particular story, and then the artist Paco Roca. But it also shows you what other Paco Roca books Fantagraphics has released, and it showed me that I really need to expand on my Paco Roca collection, because I didn't know that the house was out. I didn't know that this and this were out. For some reason, I haven't picked them up yet. The book is printed in this thick matte paper, and as far as the binding, we do have sewn binding and art on the board. Here's what the spine looks like. Oh, I forgot to show the spines. Well, I'm showing them off one by one. So no dust jacket. It's just art on board. Next up is Golden Boy, Beethoven's Youth by Michael Ross. So here's what the spine looks like. Golden Boy, Beethoven's Youth, and the Fantagraphics logo there. And then the back of the book. This one retails for $29.99. I had not previously read The Thud, which is what Michael Ross worked on. I love this because you get to see exactly what this is in here. It's actually music. So I'm not sure how that one is, but this one was amazing, especially when I found out how he came up with this particular story. So this all starts in 1778, and we do get to meet a young Beethoven here. We see his brothers, he gets into fights, and it's just a take on a story that has a lot of things that happen in real life and skillfully mixed with humor in there. I mean, there's also some empathy as well. His father's a raging alcoholic, and you can tell he's probably abusive. Never really shows. His mother is very supportive of him. But it's interesting, the title Golden Boy comes from both his parents calling him Golden Boy, that he's gonna be some kind of master like Mozart. As a matter of fact, he wants to train under Mozart. So this is how the music is just drawn here. It's so beautifully done. And the Bakers down here, they play an important part. They live downstairs, so the Beethovens are above, and the Bakers are underneath them in this apartment, or I guess this house. And that's where this comes from. There were diaries of the baker's son that lived downstairs from the Beethoven's family. So a lot of the things in here were inspired by those diaries. I thought that was really cool. But it's his love of just doing his own music. He doesn't want to, just play sheeted music, things that somebody else has written. He wants to create his own music. He falls in love in here. We go through the years. We get to see him just go through different phases in his life. There's death, and there's a love story in here too. The one thing that I found interesting, and I don't know if this is, I don't know if anybody that watches my show is a Beethoven expert, about the he had stomach issues apparently, because they kept coming up a lot for like as soon as he takes that boat trip, he had diarrhea, and it seems like I don't know if it was irritable bowel syndrome or what was going on with him. I don't know if any historian has ever read about that. This is when he ended up getting the pox, and he had to stay away from people. But I love the way that the music is drawn in this. I thought that was a very interesting way of doing it, because it's beautifully done. This is what the backgrounds look like, what the cityscape looks like. And this is when he arrives in Vienna. So you do get to see a big difference, right? And then you have the years up there that keep changing. Because we start him at the age of, I believe, 7, but everybody keeps calling him 6 because they're like, oh, he's going to be this golden boy. He's going to be this master of music. And he keeps reminding people that, no, I'm 7, but look at that. That is just absolutely freaking stunning. I love that this is the way that music is done. And it did make me crack up a few times, especially when he got in a fight, especially when his stomach started giving him problems from time to time. It's exaggerated, but it's very colorful. And it's got a lot of expressive scenes in here. I think it really showcases how... Here, let me just go back to this. Chaotic, yet beautiful Beethoven's music was. Man, I don't know if you can hear pictures. You ever see memes like that are like, people say you can't hear pictures? For some reason, I'm thinking of the saxophone player in Lost Boys. But anyway, you can definitely hear his music. Now, do you need to be a big Beethoven fan to enjoy this book? No, not at all. You don't need to know anything about Beethoven or his music. But this is a really good, interesting historical take on him while giving you some whimsical stuff in there to keep the story going. It's a really unique way of just showcasing the upbringing of this tortured genius. So this is Beethoven's youth. Now, this particular book has 194 pages, retailing for $29.99. And all the way in the back is just a bio on the creator and some more chaotic music there. Art on board, just like all the other books here, with the exception of the slipcase. And we have sewn binding. And I'm not sure if I talked about the paper. The paper is the same as the paper in the Black Swan book. It's this thick matte paper that they're using. Keeping 2. So this is a little bit smaller than an average trade paperback, just to kind of give you an idea right here. And this is a standard size hardcover, but to kind of give you an idea, this is almost like a journal size book. But one of my most anticipated books of 2022. And apparently one of the most anticipated books for a long time for a lot of people. This is by Jordan Crane. And this is one of those books I'm going to have a hard time talking about. Not like the Johnny Ryan book where I can't show the artwork. But this is one where I think the least I say about it, the better off it is for people to go into it completely blind. I was expecting something completely different when I read about the synopsis of this. All I read was 2 people on a road trip, and they're having, I think it was marital problems is the way that I read it. So I'm like, oh, cool, a boring story. Let's look at it, because I love stories like that. So it is a little bit of that and so much more. So in here, you get to meet these 2 characters. These are our main protagonists. And it's a couple. They were stuck in traffic, and they're coming back home. Now, in here, within the story, they are reading a story to pass the time. They're reading a book together. And that book says a lot about them. That book is tragic. What happens to the characters in that book, holy crap. Because at first, I was like, okay, are they reading a book, or is this like a friend or a past life? Because we get to see just thoughts and other people's perspective on phone calls. Like, for example, he finds out his mom's dog died. He finds out that Tim's roommate's brother died. He was only 23 and had leukemia. So even body language and the way they talk to each other, you can see that their relationship is straining. And this book that they read together kind of adds to how they're dealing with each other's insecurities, if you will. Like, she goes, and I think she goes out just to get food. Oh, and to rent a movie. And she's gone for a long time, so this is the story within the story. It's about a couple that's expecting a baby. So while she's gone, he's home washing dishes, and then he starts thinking about all these things, like, what would happen if something happened to her? What would happen if, she were to die, she were to get mugged, stabbed, like all these inner thoughts, and then those inner thoughts start going into flashbacks of his own life, and you get a better understanding of the character, and you get like the perspective of his mom after she called him about the dog that passed away. Let me just show you what those pages look like. These pages right here, like finding the dead dog, and then just these sad images of her and the memories that she had with her dog. This book really moved me in different ways. I was angry, and I got sad, and I was confused. I didn't know exactly what was a dream when he was fantasizing, or what really happened as a flashback. But I guess in life, that's the way it works, right? You get caught up in your own thoughts, and one thought leads into another, and before you know it, you're going down a rabbit hole of just these almost unstoppable thoughts that kind of mix in with reality. And the older you get, the more you see that. I thought this was genius. I don't know how anybody else feels about it. All I did was just read the blurb, and I was in, and it wasn't what I was expecting. I think it turned out to be more. Now, the only other thing I did read, actually this came from Fantagraphics' website, was the fact that this took 20 years to put together. So this is Crane's, I don't want to call it his magnum opus because he's still around, but I think he might call it that. Like, I think it's just genius the way that he wrote this. These flashbacks, these fantasies, and both of these characters are building these just invisible barriers around each other instead of talking to each other. So there's a beautiful and powerful message in this book. The book retails for $29.99, and honestly, that's all I will really say about it. This is what the artwork looks like throughout the book. It has 316 pages, and all the way in the back, you get to see 4 of 2 Rebecca. So sweet. And then back here, talks about Jordan Crane and how he started his self-publishing comic books. So this is one that, I do a top 10 every year. I think, I don't know how it's going to be able to knock this one off the top. This was a freaking amazing experience. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you have read, which ones you look forward to reading, what your favorite Fantagraphics release has been. This was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. More importantly, all of you, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.